When a leader threatens to impose a 50% tariff on another nation, it may appear at first glance like a show of power, a move to dominate and dictate terms. But when you peel away the surface, you see something else, an insecurity that hides behind the mask of intimidation. Because real power does not come from squeezing others, it comes from building partnerships, earning respect, and creating strength that lasts. The attempt to weaponize tariffs is nothing more than a quick fix, a shock tactic that seeks to frighten rather than inspire. And fear, my friends, is not the foundation of greatness. Think about it. If you are truly strong, you don't need to scream about it. You don't need to threaten everyone around you. You let your actions, your stability, your confidence speak for themselves. But when threats are thrown out so recklessly, they reveal a lack of confidence. They expose a fear that the future is slipping away, that the old ways of control are no longer working. This kind of intimidation is a desperate attempt to hold on to influence in a world that is rapidly changing. And let me tell you, the world has changed. Nations like India are no longer silent players waiting to be told what to do. They are rising powers with their own voices, their own vision, and their own path forward. A tariff threat of 50% is not just an economic number, it is a statement. It says, I want to control you. I want to bend your will to mine. I want you to depend on me. And when you don't obey, I will punish you. But history has shown again and again that this kind of approach does not lead to lasting victories. Empires that relied on force, on intimidation, on crushing others into submission. Where are they now? They are written about in history books, studied as examples of what not to do. True power does not dominate, it elevates. It does not crush, it creates. It does not isolate itself by pushing others down, it expands by lifting them up. India has faced intimidation before. For centuries, stronger powers tried to dictate terms, impose their will, and claim dominance over its people. And each time, India showed that no matter how heavy the chains, no matter how loud the threats, the spirit of freedom, dignity, and resilience cannot be silenced. Today, India stands at a new crossroad, faced not with colonizers but with economic bullies. And once again, the answer is not fear, not surrender, but dignity. A dignity that says, you cannot measure my future in percentages, in tariffs, in threats. You cannot scare me into submission, because my strength is not built on your approval. What intimidation does is blind the one who uses it. They believe they are holding the upper hand, but in truth, they are revealing their weakness. Because the more you threaten others, the more they look for alternatives. The more you try to control, the more you push them away. By trying to punish India, what is really happening is the erosion of trust. And without trust, there can be no partnership, no alliance, no shared future. And in this century, isolation is not power. It is decline. India has the choice and the responsibility to show the world that it will not be intimidated, that it will not respond to threats with weakness, but with strength. And strength here is not about shouting louder, but about standing taller. It is about investing in its people, its industries, its innovations, and showing that no tariff, no threat, no so-called punishment can halt its progress. That is how intimidation is defeated, not by playing the same game, but by refusing to be trapped in it. This is why I say the illusion of power in economic intimidation is just that, an illusion. It may create noise, it may shake the headline, it may spark fear for a moment. But in the long run it crumbles because intimidation is not sustainable. Respect is sustainable, cooperation is sustainable, partnership is sustainable. And India, with its resilience, with its determination, with its vision for the future, is prepared to prove exactly that. So let the threats come, let the noise grow louder. Because India knows that true power is not about fear, but about dignity, courage, and the relentless pursuit of progress. That is what will define the future. When a threat like a 50% tariff is thrown at India, the immediate temptation might be to respond with anger, to escalate, to mirror the same aggression. But real strength lies in discipline, in turning pressure into strategy. India's answer must not be to panic or to bow down. Its answer must be to stand united, to think clearly, and to build with purpose. Because in the end, the measure of a nation's strength is not how it reacts in the heat of the moment, but how it transforms a challenge into a stepping stone toward independence and greatness. Unity is the first shield against intimidation. A divided house cannot withstand external pressure, but a united people, driven by a shared vision, cannot be broken. Every farmer, every worker, every entrepreneur, every scientist becomes part of the defense when the nation faces economic threats. And India has something very few countries possess: a vast population filled with talent, creativity, and determination. When this population moves in one direction, no tariff can stop it. No economic wall is high enough to hold back the energy of a billion people who refuse to be held down. That unity is India's greatest weapon, and it is forged not in the noise of threats, but in the silence of hard work and shared pride. But unity alone is not enough. Strategy must guide it. A tariff threat can actually become an opportunity if India responds with clarity and foresight. Instead of seeing it as a blockade, India can see it as a signal. Reduce dependence, diversify markets, strengthen the home front. For too long, some nations have believed that India will always need them more than they need India. But that balance is changing by building stronger ties with Asia, Africa, Europe, and the Middle East. By forging partnerships that are based on respect rather than coercion, India can show the world that it has options. And when you have options, you cannot be controlled. Strategy also means investing in the future, not just reacting to the present. A 50% tariff may hurt trade in the short term, but it should ignite a fire to accelerate Make in India, to expand manufacturing, to boost innovation, to create products that are not only for export, but also for the domestic market. Why depend on others to validate India's potential when India itself holds the power to produce, to innovate, to lead? Every factory built, every new technology developed, every young entrepreneur supported becomes a piece of armor against economic threats. With strategy, India can shift from being reactive to being proactive, from being a target to being a force that shapes its own destiny. And this brings us to self-reliance. Self-reliance is not isolation, it is empowerment. It is not about shutting the world out, it is about stepping into the world with confidence. When a nation is self-reliant, it can engage globally from a position of strength, not desperation. It can trade as an equal, not as a dependent. India has the resources, the talent, the innovation, and most importantly, the willpower to stand on its own feet. The call for self-reliance is not a retreat from the global stage, it is preparation to walk onto that stage with a louder, stronger voice. Economic threats like tariffs are meant to break confidence, to create fear, to plant doubt in the minds of leaders and citizens alike. But India's response must be the opposite. It must build confidence, spread courage, and strengthen belief in its own capabilities. Imagine the message it sends when a nation does not beg for exceptions, does not collapse under pressure, but instead says, "We will endure, we will adapt, and we will rise." That kind of response not only diffuses the threat, but also elevates India's standing in the eyes of the world. India has always been at its best when tested. History shows it. Time and again, when external powers tried to dictate its future, India rose from the challenge with even greater determination. Today's test is not on the battlefield, but in the marketplace, not with swords and guns, but with tariffs and trade. And the answer is the same as it has always been: unity, strategy, and self-reliance. Together, they form the shield that no intimidation can pierce. So when others raise the stakes, when others try to box India in, let the response be clear. Let it be disciplined. Let it be strong. Because a nation that stands united, thinks strategically, and builds self-reliance cannot be threatened into submission. It can only be driven forward into its destiny.